Chapter 15, 1865 and after. Um, what we'll look at on these first few slides will just be some information from Chapter 14, and then we will get into Chapter 15. War was just terrible. Death and destruction. There was death and destruction everywhere, primarily in the South. There was some in the North. 600,000 Americans killed by other Americans. Um, and in today's terms, that would be more than 5 million. Property destroyed, our psyche destroyed or messed up. We were fighting. There was fighting amongst relatives and people you knew and had been around all your life. It was truly a brother's war. So then just what would come into question would just be the future. What exactly did the future hold for you after the war? Just some questions that some were asking. Should things stay the same? Should Kentucky move into the future? What about the freedom for the newly freed blacks? And what will this encompass? So when they looked at the term newly freed, what does freedom mean? To move around, to not work hard, uh, to have the same civil rights as whites. There was some that did have some good questions, but they didn't have any real answers at this time. Whites ruled the state of Kentucky. Slavery had not been so much about economics. There was money in this. There was money in slavery, and Kentucky was a slave-selling state. Um, it was rather more of a social and racial control. And of course, there was this also violence involved, and more of that will be covered in chapter 16. So some economic aspects of the war, Kentucky's personal view. You could have thousands of acres of land, but it was no good if you did not have people to work it. If you had property, slaves, you could sell your slaves, use as collateral. You always had money if you had slaves. So the property loss after the war, 107 million, over 107 million. Farm workers, both black and white, were depleted, either dead, gone, or they're just not working. If you have no workers, means you can't. There's no planting going on in the fields. So a total of 4 million less acres harvested. The hemp production fell 80%, while the tobacco production fell 57%. Also, the prices for the farmer fell, what they were being paid for crops. With the horses, 100,000 gone. You needed mules, needed for work, so they were down 45,000, were gone, and 170,000 cattle were also gone. So all of these losses, again, just the economic losses of the war. If you lost to the Union and were loyal, it's possible that you could be reimbursed for some of your losses. If you lost to the Union and were loyal to the South, then you did not receive reimbursement. The prices for what you are buying during this time are increasing. Everyone suffered during the war. Had no jobs, no income. But there was, during the brief year of neutrality, there was some booming trade in Ohio. So a lot was gone because the Union Army had been in your neighborhood and had requisitioned things. They would just take it, and there would just be a promise to pay later. Uh, so just kind of just excuse my voice just for today. It's a little groggy. My allergies have gotten the best of me for today. And so war begins. Um, the Great Hog Swindle of 1864 in an effort to save the government money. One way just to do this was just to cut out the middleman and the hog sales. And hopefully just to kind of just to slow trade. It did save the government. Let me back up. You wanted to cut out the middleman in the hog sales. It did save the government over $200,000. However, it cost the farmer who was growing the pigs to sell over $300,000. And so this did not last long. Trade did slow down. You still shipped merchandise south. Our boats returned empty because everything was not being allowed in the South to be shipped out. Everything was going overseas to raise money for war items. Just some of the industries. We never had a lot of industries. Our biggest, of course, was whiskey and tobacco. The Confederates invaded our state, but they did nothing to bother the manufacture of whiskey and tobacco. And so Louisville was able to grow in commerce, and the state's financial situation eventually did improve. So some social aspects of the war years. Progress in public education stopped. It was going good in 1849 and 1850, and then it just stopped. Teachers were in the military, or they had to take better paying jobs. School buildings and colleges requisitioned as hospitals or for troops to live. Now, when the troops were in the community, the Union troops, there was lots of parties, picnics, dances, plays, band concerts, a lot of flirting going on, a lot of weddings took place. And the county fairs discontinued out of respect. Women took over men's jobs while the men were away, uh, jobs that women had not been qualified for before. Uh, but with no one around to do them, women they are running the businesses, they are running the plantations. Women knitted socks and sweaters. They raised funds for soldiers' families. They were finally called on to do nursing. The original thought of men were that women were too delicate for nursing because there was a lot of pain, blood, and suffering. However, women, when they did become nurses, women had a clean gene. They knew how to take care of men. Nurses changed sheets, bathed patients, shaved patients. They did everything to make the men feel clean and comfortable. It was noticed in certain wars where women were nursing that men were living longer. No amputations took place. Maggots ate the dead flesh. In the amputation wards, patients who had amputations were dying. So with women being nurses, they were keeping them clean. So this way, again, just no infection. And so the patients lived longer. Penicillin was discovered in World War II, and kind of as we kind of just see today, once a woman touches a man, once women touch a job a man has done, it's referred to as women's work. And probably it's with some of your moms. I do remember mine. Growing up, she could have the flu and still cook, clean, take care of me. She never got rest. So. And I just often just share this story. When I had kidney stones, I was just down and out. So women who have children, I bow down to you, because when I had kidney stones, I was just out. It was just way, way too painful for me. So much, much respect to women. Changes. War did end slavery. War decided limits on the state to defy federal government. The state's rights secondary to the federal government. By 1860, Kentucky's almost stagnating. We have more leaving than arriving. Manufacturing failed. No works of music, art, or literature is coming out of Kentucky from Kentuckians. There's just a chaotic land system and a lack of educational advances. There's also a lack of political leadership. All of our great politicians like Henry Clay and Mr. Breckinridge, and the ones who helped us so much in the past, were dead.